Hello fellow flight simmers, I'm Eric, and I'm back with that video that I hinted about 1.5 years ago, talking about the Brunner rudder and the yoke. Here it finally is. I've finished filming it, and I thought I'd just introduce it and tell you what you're about to watch. I'm going to take this temperamental and rudder-loving beaver from Portland Troutdale, under the Portland International Charlie Airspace, fly it up to Walter Sutton's grass strip. And I'm going to do a touch and go on the way. And during that cruise, I will talk about some of the questions you had about the setup of the rudders and the yoke, the software a little bit, and how it is to fly it. And I mean fly it, I mean use it. Not autopilot. I'm gonna get on a couple of rants about that, as I just almost started. And since I got this and unboxed it in the late 2020, I've put about 700-800 hours on it, on the rudders. I already had a couple of thousand hours on the yoke beforehand. Most of it hand flying. So I like to think that I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you a couple of things beforehand, things that is not visible in the video. For one thing, when I'm flying the Beaver, I have to manually pump the flaps up and down. It's not visible on the video, but I do this with this Thrustmaster Warthog HOTAS setup. This is the flap setting. Set it for down and use this lever to pump. And when I want to pump the flaps up, I push this way and do it the other way. Just so you know what's going out on off camera. I am also referring to trimming the airplane. And most people will use the trim buttons on the yoke. I don't do that. I have a hardware, actually quite cheap Saitek Cessna trim wheel. But I've been using this for, I guess, 10 years or so. And it's completely flawless. I've been using it. I always use it. And it doesn't spike, and it's very, very precise. So if you can get one of those, go for it. I guess that's it. So enjoy. It's about an hour or so, a little bit less maybe. But I go to some detail about how this works, how it feels, how it's on the ground, engine vibrations, wind, turbulence, different speeds, all kinds of things. Things that I've not seen many people talk about. I see most people fly these things on autopilot. Oh, there I go again. That soapbox. Don't fly this on autopilot. Hand fly it. Preferably with something like the Beaver. Enjoy.
All right, welcome to Explain 11 and a little testing of the Brunner. You see that it's not working. How can this be? Why is that? Well, it's not started yet. So I'll quickly initialize it. And my intention here is also to show you how this works before I've even connected the thing to the sim. So now it's started. This is running. The pedals are already running. Still not working. That's because I haven't started the program. I usually do this before I start the sim, but I'm going to do this the other way around, just to show how easy it is. I have a mapped button on the Stream Deck to the CLS to Sim software for Brunner. And I'm just going to click that and have that start up. Probably started in the background of Explain Now, so I'm just going to pull it up. There it is. I'm not going to go into the program itself, but I'm just going to show how easy it is to connect. It is now set to the Brunner Beaver profile that I've created. And I'm going to just simply click connect. And it's connecting. It's connecting now to the hardware, and it will automatically connect to the sim. No, it's in the sim. So I can now take this away, and that's that. How it works. It's a little bit sluggish right now. That could be frame rate issues in the sim. Yes, it is. Let me just try something here. Somewhat better. That's usually not a problem. Frame rate in the sim is, as you can see, relatively okay. Anyways, if you're in a really, really low frame rate situation, the connection to the yoke will suffer a little bit, but I haven't noticed any problems with that. That's not any issue. The sim is going to be more of a problem than any of that. Actually, one of the things I wanted to mention is that in some software, some of the newer software, there was a bug that was introduced that would make the sim or the yoke disconnect when you have a too high frame rate, which is kind of ridiculous. Whoever gets too high frame rate in a flight simulator. Anyway, I'm going to do a quick and dirty pre-flight, and I will show you some of the quirks of having software like this, or software and a yoke like this. And immediately, one of the things I can show you is that in the walk around of the Beaver, I'm just going to take the flaps down with this flap pump. Flaps are down. One of the quirks is that when I access the walk around feature in the Beaver, is that you can see immediately, let's see here. Yeah, that's a problem. And that is simply because the walk around feature is kind of overriding some of the data refs here, or something like that. So I simply, when I do this in planes like these, when there's some special feature like a walk around, I just click the simulation disconnect button. Now it's disconnected. It will, in some planes it will still work, but it will just disconnect the force feedback. And in this case, I think it's also the case. Yes, it works, but it's not connected via the force feedback, and it kind of does weird movements. So it's not going to be very useful to fly like this. But I do that for the walk around, and then I just move on. So that's one of the quirks. Many or most of the planes in X-Plane or Flight Simulator will not have this issue. But if you have weird things going on, that might be a solution that is viable. So anyway, quick walk around. I usually set my radar altitude there just to have a reminder. Let's see here. Well, it's getting low and dark, but it's good for this flight. This is a very short flight, and during which I will talk about some of the questions people have about these yoke and pedal sets. Chocks. Covers are already off. More chocks. Tie downs. And light is not going to be factored. It's daylight. And this is one of the reasons why this won't work connected, because you have to manually check ailerons and elevators and all that. Flaps, tie downs again, and also this one. It will still work, but it will have this artifact where it's wobbling around. So I just prefer to click it off. And, the tires are good, for now at least. Let's hope I can make a landing that will not destroy my tires. This Beaver is kind of a fickle beast when it comes to landings. And there it is, I think, finished. Now, bring this back to your visibility again. Click connect, and now it's back. Away it goes, and ready to go. So, close the door, and let's see here. Lights beacon on. And okay, we have fuel a lot of fuel in the front tank, half center tank, and a lot of fuel in the rear tank. Do I have anything in the aux tanks? Nope. So that means I can probably do good to start on the front tank, I think. And I will now use the fuel pump to pump up the fuel pressure, as you can probably see rising here. A little bit more. There it is. And here's the down by the floor there, you see the primer. It's about 25 degrees outside or so. So I'm gonna take 5 squirts of prime. And before that, I'm gonna take the flaps up before starting so I can look around properly. So, see if anyone's behind the plane. Nope. And well, there's a fuel truck, very conveniently placed. Let's hope he drives away. So what am I missing here? Pull the yoke back. Parking brake still on. And, well, there it goes. It's gonna go forward by itself, by the way, as the elevator is gonna come down. It's, as far as I know, on the Beaver, it's rather well balanced, but it's gonna slightly pull it forward. But that can be changed in the profile. Anyway, babbling away. Let's start this. Clear prop. We have a good start. Okay, so I'm gonna shut the window slightly and put in some lights. Also, I'm going to connect to PilotEdge. I always fly on PilotEdge. Connected to PilotEdge, indeed. You can verify that on the online chart here, popping up near Portland. That's me right there. Anyways, see here. And amount of fuel checks out. Flow. I'm not going to use the GPS much today. So I'm going to forego some of my time-consuming procedures and just get on the way. the other airports don't have radios, so I'm not going to make any calls, but I'm going to call up the Portland CTAF, which is 0.9, which is already set, so that I can announce my takeoff. The wind is variable at 5, and I can see this windsock right here is pointing south-ish. So I'm just going to take the first and best runway, and that's going to be, for me, runway 7. Set this runway 7. Thus, and altimeter 2987. Like that. It's at 40 feet. That checks out. Alright. Let's see, I have a list here of things I want to discuss here. So if there are anything I want to talk to the ground here. Yeah, so one of the things that is a thing with the Brunner rudder pedals is that you can actually set them to be very heavy on the ground. These are not very heavy now. They will actually go back to the center more or less because of the air blowing over the tail. Let me just set them to this point and take the RPM down, see if that changes. Now they stay because the wind over the tail is sufficiently low. Let me get the RPM up. That's the wind over the rudder. But there's another factor. If you have a Cessna 172, for example, where the nose wheel is also steering with the pedals, it will be kind of heavy to push it on the ground because the friction of the nose wheel on the ground, that can be set in the settings and adjusted as accordingly. Because of the tail wheel situation with the Beaver, I've kind of set it on a relatively low setting because at a certain point it will kind of be free-castering, and now you're just moving the rudder and not the wheel at all. So I've kind of set it into kind of a happy medium. And the brake tension is not adjustable. It's pretty firm and very consistent throughout. Yeah, let's get going. I'm just gonna go straight out onto the runway at Alpha 4, where I am currently sitting. Now you can see the plane is going away. It's because the tail wheel unlocked. And the wind is coming that way, so it's gonna blow my tail that way, which makes the plane want to go this way. Many quirks of tail wheel flying. Let's call on the CTAF here. Troutdale traffic, Beaver 524 Echo Alpha, taxiing runway 7 will be going on Alpha 4, Troutdale. And yeah, the Beaver is one of the many tailwheel aircraft where you have to be what you call happy feet. So lots of back and forth. So runway 7, and looks good. I will take a bit of flaps, relatively light and loaded. Since I'm doing this without much experience in filming things, I'm probably going to be messing up a lot of things because I'm not having the focus I'm used to have. I'll try to do my best. This is where a checklist would be a good thing. I don't use a checklist. Yeah, go ahead and shoot me. Engine is in the yellow as far as the temperature goes, so it's at least beyond the cold line, and the pressure look good. And charging the yoke doesn't move the elevator is not affected by the prop wash. The ailerons, that is. The elevator, however, is. So at a low idle, it'll creep somewhat forward. If I add throttle, yoke will come backwards because the airflow. And it will do so also with airspeed, so it's not only throttle. And that will affect the aileron. And well, I'll show you that on takeoff. Strobes and landing lights on, and all of this is good. I see no traffic, and no traffic. Troutdale traffic, Beaver 524 Alpha, taking off runway 7 at Alpha 4. We'll be making a left crosswind departure to the north. Troutdale. Trim is set. Got some rudder trim. Usually have a little bit of rudder trim. Right rudder trim. Looks like plenty of runway. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll have a little bit left aileron. And you'll see as my speed increases, it will come back by tone. I'll hold back pressure to keep the tail wheel locked and firmly on the ground while taking off. See how this goes. I'll just hold back pressure. I will not be steering with the ailerons here. Okay. Engine looks good. Let's go. Yeah, I didn't dare holding it back, but now there's much more resistance on the ailerons here. One thing I didn't notice, or actually talk about, was that I could feel bumps in the rudders on the ground. Not that much on paved surfaces, but once I get to grass or gravel, it will be much more violent. Now it's relatively heavy, still relatively smooth here. The elevator is much heavier than the aileron. Rudder in slow speed is easily moved in this regime that I'm moving now, but if I really need a lot of rudder, it's much heavier. Okay, so let's stop wobbling around here. And let's just, yeah, I'm just gonna leave the airspace right here. Troutdale traffic, Beaver 524 Alpha is leaving the airspace to the northeast, climbing through 800. Final call, Troutdale. Alright, gonna get the flaps up a little bit. I'm gonna use all the information I can get, so I'm using ForeFlight here to guide myself. I'm very close to the Portland Charlie airspace, and I don't want to interfere with that. Yeah, the Troutdale tower that I just kind of called on is closed on PilotEdge. The Portland International Charlie airspace, however, is open and monitored, so I don't want to mess with that. So I need to stay below, where currently I'm getting to be under 2,000 feet shallow. somewhere behind that big island over there. I'm gonna head for that mountain there. It's Green Mountain. There's an airport behind it. And I'm gonna do a touch and go at it. And according to my GPS, I have wind from the north to the south, so I will have a crosswind. Yay. And, just hope that pans out nicely. So now that I'm at around 100 knots, the aileron is still not that heavy. Elevator is much heavier. The texture, however, is one of the most important things about the Brunner, and that is kind of noticed by it doesn't have a true center detent. I don't feel any click or any pop when going through the center here. I feel that the force is just very little right here because there is no deflection on the elevator itself. The same goes for the ailerons, that is, and the elevator is the same. If you do big movements, you can feel it changing. Same with the rudders. There's no center detent. There's nothing there. It's just force. So let's see here. Runway 9 is what I'm going in, or rather, 27 rather. Start slowing down here, getting a little bit of street lighting here, just to be able to see better. I cannot see the airport, but I know from experience that it's behind here somewhere. So I'm just going to slow down and be on the left base that I am. And now the rudder is much softer again because I'm 75 knots or so. I can see the airport here. Yeah, we can see the white buildings there. Right. Landing flaps. Propeller full RPM. Yep, there it is. Got wind from the north, so I'm going to have left rudder to force the tail into the wind. And right aileron. Some of the movements you see on the yoke and on the pedals is the change in wind or gusts. It's difficult to show it because you can feel it, and some of the movements you see it be doing might seem like I'm doing it, but it's the yoke pushing back from wind gusts. Let's try not to hit the cars. Yeah, that's better. landing. Okay, let's just go. That's what I call a bump and go landing. You might have seen it in the pedals that I got twitches. That's I'm not sure that's the actual landing. That might just be the ground surface. I don't think they have a touchdown effect. Anyways, I'm gonna turn right crosswind here to get out of the way and not interfere with the Portland Charlie airspace. 2,000 feet is the limit. I'm actually gonna go northeast. I'm gonna have a look at the prison that is charted up there. Start pulling flaps. Now it's in climb setting. Yeah, if I let go of the yoke now, you see it goes to the left. That's the wind. Plane, or on the plane, forcing it. So there's been a shift in the wind now. Now I have wind from the northwest here, 10 knots. That's gonna be fun. That might actually be beneficial at Walter Sutton's airfield. If you see that artifact on the screen, that's the belt. I'm just leaning backwards from with my track IR. Okay, I'm gonna kind of squeeze through a tiny gap through here because the terrain is climbing here, and at the same time I'm gonna stay below 2,000 feet to avoid going into the Charlie airspace. So there's kind of a threading the needle here. Still room to climb though, so I'm gonna get on with it. People have asked about engine vibrations, and that is also possible to get the yoke and the pedals to simulate. I have it on, but I don't have much of it. I have enough that I can feel the engine. I can feel the texture you feel in like a steering wheel on a car. If you have a diesel car, you will feel it. If you have a large V8 engine gasoline car, you probably might not feel it as much. But that texture you will have there, the feel, as opposed to an electric car where you will feel nothing. So I'm staying at 2,000 now because I'm still at the edge of the Charlie airspace here. Once I'm out, I'm going to climb slightly up this valley here, I think. It's going to be good. And there I'm outside. I'm monitoring guard on radio 2, 121.5. If I went into the Charlie and they noticed, they might try to call me there to tell me to get the hell out of the way. Probably not though, because this is a part of the airspace that they're not using. Anyway, so the engine vibration, I can feel it. So I would feel it if it was off. But if you have too much, you can kind of, it feels a little bit too much. I guess it depends on the airplane you're flying. Quick thing that I want to just give a recommendation. If you buy yoke like this or pedal or both, don't fly with autopilot. Good grief. I've seen so many people who spend a lot of money on their sim setups only to just sit there and watch the yoke go back and forth. Which it will do. Let me just do it for fun. Setting heading. And if I turn now, watch the yoke. It will turn. So it will follow whatever you're doing. It doesn't do that in the cockpit though. So if it's just servos using control surfaces and the yoke staying put, I don't know how that works in Beaver, but you can watch it. But it's, I mean, who wants to spend $5,000 or something to get a set like this and not use it? Just partially modeled even in Orbx. So I got what I wanted. I'm gonna follow this river now. Is this the river? No, that's the road. Where is that river? Is it visible at all? Anyway, it's gonna be down this valley here. So I'm gonna pull back on the power a little bit. So while in cruise now, let's see if there's any more questions here. People have asked to compare with other rudders, and I've used cheap Saitek rudder pedals. I've used the MFG pedals, which are really excellent. So if you don't have the budget for this, the MFGs are really, really good. I've also used the Thrustmaster TPR pendular throttles. You probably saw them in the unboxing video. They're also really excellent. Yeah, but there's no comparison. So just the center detent sensation of any of those pedals will be a turn-off. And the fact that now these rudders are really much heavier than they were in slow speed. And that makes sense, because if you push full throttle or full rudder at this speed, you will have a very violent reaction from the plane. It doesn't make sense to do that. The resistance kind of holds it back naturally. So the sensation that you're getting is kind of makes sense. It feels right. It feels heavier in high speeds and lighter in slower speeds. Trimming is another factor that you won't get. Watch as I'm trimming. So I can, for example, if I want to climb, let's just leave the plane be again. If I want to climb, I can hold the yoke back. I can hold it there. But if I let it go, it'll go forwards, as does all the other yokes. But if I hold it back and trim, at some point, I can let it go at that position, trimming the force out, as you do in real life. So you will, with the trim, leave the yoke in slightly different positions. So you will kind of you will not have one specific center spot where the yoke will be. That will depend on your trim and your speed. That is something that you won't get without force feedback of some sort. Let's see here. Looks like I'm getting ready to pass over Yakult here. It's actually directly below me here, so I'm going to just fly a little bit to the side so I can have a look. This is the town of Yakult. Not much to speak of. But the reason I fly over here is kind of because there was this tiniest TFR, temporary flight restriction, a year ago or something. Tiny, very, very small, a couple of 100 feet around. That was because of some drone thing. I think it was a drone inspection of some sort of. There's there are some radio dishers or something like that down here. Anyway, let's continue on my list here. I'm actually getting very close to the airport, but I'm just going to circle around a little bit. Actually, the airport is right down there. So let's see here. Complicated to set up. That's a question that people ask. It's not too easy. It's going to take some time to get that done. But once you get profile set up for the various airplanes, it is set and forget. You just click connect like I did, and off you go. that's just probably the nature of the simulator. There was actually, I'm addressing some of the weird questions I get as well. Someone asked actually to me unscrew the lid and have a look inside. No, no thank you. I like my warranties. So down here should be the squiggly roads that I was looking for. To use as a hint that I'm close to the airport. It's that main road down there, I think. Kind of does some zigzags around these buildings. Let's see here. Any more questions here? Somebody asked of the speed at which the stuff arrives from Brunner. That will depend on when you order and where you're living. I live in Norway, and Switzerland is not that far away, so I got them really, really fast within a matter of a few days. So, but I think they don't save on the shipping Brunner. They do it properly. They're very, very heavy stuff, so I don't think they have. I don't think they can use the cheapest stuff. Helicopters. Somebody asked about that. I wish I knew more about it, because I've recently found helicopters more fascinating, but I really don't know anything. So, what do people call it? Anti-torque pedals or something? I have no idea how that works. And, that's basically, I think I'm through the list here. Things I wanted to mention. So now let's get to the big thing here, landing. Thankfully, the wind is now 2 knots from the north. And there's the airport. Just below my wing right now. That little grass strip, that's where I'm going. So I'm going to be landing on the westerly runway. Not quite sure what it is, but I'm just going to assume west. So, yeah, that checks out, more or less. So that direction, you see right there. You can see my mouse cursor here. So I'm just going to be spiraling down over this here little bowl in the rain. This road right here is going to be very useful as a kind of a base turn. I'm going to turn outside of it, but I'm going to use it as a marker. And there's some farm equipment and stuff down there, but I don't see any other issues. Outside, lights are still on, the engine is moderately hot, it's going to be fine. Okay, let's slow down. So the airport is at 450 feet, 2,000 feet long, so plenty long. But it is grass, it can be slippery, and I seem to remember that there are some power lines around here. So I don't want to overshoot too much. Oh yeah, well, there's some trees and bushes on the end of the runway anyway. Probably seen that while I'm cruising, I tend to not use very much rudder while flying. Doesn't seem to need that much if I do small corrections, but in the pattern it's useful to use more because yeah, it's going to be very quickly uncoordinated like it is now. It's probably one of the things that I'm not very good at, and probably also very common in sims because I don't feel that I'm uncoordinated. I have to see the nose kind of go the wrong direction. So I'm done with it. now, so actually a bit too slow for what I'm about to do. Let's base the final turn. I'm gonna try to work it out. Overshoot a little bit and make the final turn count. Lots of rudder here. Yeah, that worked out. Keeping a little bit of the rudder. Coming over some trees and stuff here. And here we go. Yeah. Great landing, it says. It's not that great, but it works. A little bit bumpy here. Anyways, I got down in some sort of a semblance of one piece here. Let's just show how the tail wheel works. Full turn, a little bit of brake. Yeah, now I got into the grass, into the deeper grass. Slow down. Anyways, yeah, you can see at the other end of the runway here, you have some wires. Anyway, I'm gonna just shut it down right here. Parking brake, and with that, and lights are up, and Avionics off, and shut down. Takes a bit of time to wind down. Still, yeah, the engine cooled down nicely. And that is off. And let's see here. Yep, everything is sorted. All right, I'm gonna do the shutting down proper after. So let's see here. Yeah, you can see now. As I said, center detent, there's nothing. The force feedback is on now. There's no change when going through the middle here. Nothing at all. And the same here. So this is about the neutral place. There's no change going through here. Same goes for the rudder. Completely fluent. You can leave it wherever you want to put it. Not this one. This will creep forward because of the weight, depending on the wind, of course. But these can be left wherever you want. So I think that's going to be my demonstration of how these pedals and this yoke work. So if you have any more questions, go ahead and leave them. And I won't say that you should go out and buy these things willy-nilly. It's a bit of an expensive kit, and you really should hand fly a lot to get the most out of them. As I said, flying 1,000 hours on autopilot with this is just, you know, what do what you want.
Yeah. That rant about autopilots again. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video about the Brunner yoke and rudders, and maybe found it useful. or at least interesting to watch the Beaver in action. I love that plane so much. It's so much fun flying. Hand flying. No, don't get me started. Anyway, at the end here, I've attached a little clip that I didn't find room for anywhere else, where I talk about the switching off and on the yoke. So useful for those who have the setup. Enjoy it. In their resting state, they are off, as you can see, and they are thus completely dead. This is as recommended by Brunner, and you do this by switching or pulling off the electricity in some way. I do this by having them both connected to a power strip. When I put them on, first thing is that the rudders will initialize. It will do this by itself immediately when you put power to it. So keep your feet away unless you want them, minced. The yoke will not do this by itself. It has an initialize button to make it do that. This is also important to keep away from it, so don't have anything interfere with the process. There it is, finished.